Let's get started with our math warm-up today. First of all, let's take a look at problem number 1. And we are going to take the decimal 3 7/10, and we need to round to the nearest 1. What does that mean exactly? So what it means is you need to round that decimal to the nearest whole number 1. So 3 7/10 is closest to what whole number? If you were saying 4, you would be correct. So let's take a look at our second problem. We have 2 3/100, and we're going to round to the nearest 1. Which whole number is that closest to? 2 would be our correct answer. We'll move down to number 3. Now we're going to look at 7 81/100, and we want to, again, round to the nearest 1 or the nearest whole number. So when I'm thinking of 7 81/100, that is closest to 8. Then we will jump down to number 4, and now we have 0 93/100. We're going to round to the nearest 10th this time. So thinking about that decimal, it is closest to 0 9/10. We'll jump down to our next one, which is 2 65/100. We're going to round to the nearest 10th once again. So again, we're looking at that 10th place, which is where the 6 is located. We have a 5 to the right of that. So that means that this would round to 2 7/10. Then we're going to take a look at our last one here. We have 7, and then look at this decimal, 2894. We're going to say 2,894 10,000ths, and we're going to round to the nearest thousandth place. So this is my 10th, my hundredths, my thousandths place is here at the 9 spot. We're going to look to the right, which is a 4. So looking at that decimal, I would say that would be 7 289 thousandths. How'd you do? Okay, so now let's take a look at our math message. Solve the following number stories. Let's take a look at number 1. You had $1.46 in your piggy bank. You found 17 cents between the couch cushions. How much money do you have now? Go ahead and pause your video and see if you might be able to figure out the answer to this problem. So as you'll notice, I have placed the $1.46 and the 17 cents into a T-chart so that I can line up my decimal points and make sure that I have all of my digits in the correct columns before I actually add those together. So then we're going to add normally. So I'm going to do my 6 plus my 7, which gives me 13. Regroup. 1 plus 4 plus 1 is 6. We're going to bring down that decimal point. It stays in the same spot. And 1 plus 0 is 1, which would leave us with $1.63 in the piggy bank. So now let's take a look at problem number 2. You bought a vegetable tray for $12.19. You paid with a $20 bill. How much change did you get? So in this instance, are you going to add or subtract? Pause your video now and see if you might be able to figure that out. So if you'll take a look here, once again, I have made myself a T-chart, and I placed $20 in the T-chart, but notice where I put the 20 on the left side of the decimal point, and I put 2 zeros here to represent the change that we don't have. It's just $20. We're going to subtract $12.19, and then we're going to proceed to subtract just like we normally would subtract any regular number that was not a decimal. So I'm going to look at my ones column, and I have a 0 minus 9, and I cannot do that. So I'm going to have to go all the way over here and regroup. So this becomes 1, this becomes 10, then we're going to change it to a 9. This comes over here, becomes 10, and we're going to make that a 9, and then we're finally back to the ones column. So 10 minus 9 is going to give me 1. 9 minus 1 is going to give me 8. I'm going to put my decimal point in, can't forget that. 9 minus 2 is going to give me 7, and 1 minus 1 gives me 0. So my answer is going to be $7.81 change back from that $20 bill. How did you do? Did you get it right? So if you haven't figured out, our lesson today is addition and subtraction of money. So why are we learning about addition and subtraction of money? Well, first of all, money is a real life skill. So this is something that you are going to need to make it in the real world, boys and girls. And it definitely has real world applications, which means that you're going to use it all the time. So how are we going to go about this? Well, we're going to take a look at a game called Spend and Save, and that's going to help us practice adding and subtracting decimals. It's a 2-player game. You'll play 8 rounds. And there's going to be a coin that normally you would flip, and depending on whether you land on heads or tails, that is going to determine whether you are going to spend the money or save the money. So let's get started. So the way this game works is you are going to flip a coin, and it's going to land on either heads or tails. If it lands on tails, that means you're going to save the money. If it lands on heads, you're going to spend the money. You're also going to be drawing 3 cards, and you could also use dice if you wanted to. But we're going to take a look at an example round here on this screen. So this is the beginning of round 4. And Max is starting out with $72.19. So on our recording sheet, we will have put round 4. He has a starting amount of $72.19. Now, he already drew 3 numbers. He drew a 2, a 7, and a 0. And he also flipped the coin and got tails, which means he's going to save the money. So he gets to determine what to do with that 2, the 7, and the 0, what money amount he's going to make. So since he's saving the money, he's going to try to probably make the largest sum that he can. So he decides to make $7.20. And as you can see, we report that as save. It's going to be $7.20. And he's going to add that to his starting amount that we had up here at the top of $72.19. So when he adds the $7.20, he has a new starting balance of $79.39. So he makes sure to record all of this information in his recording sheet or on his recording sheet. So as you can see, this is what our recording sheet looks like. We have the round here on the left in this column. We have the starting amount. We have change, like whether we're going to spend or save, how much, and then what our ending balance is going to be. So every player for round 1 gets to start with $100. And depending upon what you flip, when you flip the coin, is going to determine whether you're going to spend it or save it. You'll put the dollar amount here, and then you're going to add or subtract that dollar amount from your balance. Notice that it already has 8 rounds here because I said at the beginning that you're going to play 8 rounds, and this is going to give you good practice for adding and subtracting decimals. One of the things that you need to remember, and you'll probably want to have ready, is a piece of paper and a pencil so that you can line up your decimal points and do that addition and subtraction to make sure that you get the correct amounts here. Once you finish adding and subtracting with pencil, then you can check it with a calculator if you would like. So let's summarize this lesson today. You have learned about adding and subtracting money and learned that it is a life skill. We also learned about a game that's going to help us practice that skill. And I reiterated to you that lining up decimal points and aligning digits in correct columns is very important to assure that you get correct answers. We add and subtract decimals just like we do regular whole numbers. We just have to make sure that we put our decimal point in the correct place and that we have all of our digits lined up at all times. You will regroup just like you would if you didn't have a decimal point. So if, for example, the one that we did with the $20, we had to regroup, we had to go all the way over to that tens place to get our answer for that problem. So just be extra careful, make sure you line up your digits, and you should do fairly well with this lesson. Until next time.